So good afternoon, everybody, and thank you very much for joining us. I'm Catherine McGuinness. I'm the chair of the Policy and Resources Committee at the City of London Corporation, the organisation which looks after the Square Mile itself in the heart of London, but which also works closely with the financial and related professional services sector, which carries our name, but is now, of course, UK-wide. So it's my absolute pleasure to welcome you to today's launch of the Finance for Sustainable Growth pilot. And I just want to start with a few basic housekeeping rules. Today's event is being recorded and it may be shared on our digital platforms in the coming days. Unfortunately, we only have an hour. We won't have time for interactive questions and answers, but do please feel free to use the chat bar. Please do feel free to discuss and comment in the chat, and we will try to pick up what you put there bilaterally afterwards. And if you have any technical issues, again, please use the chat bar and the team will try to help you if we can. So just before I hand over to our first speaker, I just want to say a few words on why this pilot is so important and what it is that we're hoping to achieve. So I think we all recognise that climate change is it's the biggest global challenge that we all face. And I think the pandemic and that combined with COP26 later this year has really sharpened our focus on this and our focus on meeting critical net zero targets. And that requires decisive and collective action across communities, across sectors, and indeed around the world. And within the UK, that means towns, cities and regions working in collaboration to develop green solutions. Our own research has shown the importance of finance, academia, policy and business coming together to support sustainable growth. And for that reason, we're really pleased to be launching our Finance for Sustainable Growth Northeast pilot in partnership with North Star Ventures, the Northern Accelerator and the Northeast Local Enterprise Partnership. And the intention of this project is to help mobilise investment, connecting the financial expertise and capital found here in the city and in the financial sector with the innovation found in hubs around the UK. We want to support the creation of business ecosystems that enable green innovation to thrive across the whole of the UK. And we are starting with the Northeast and Tees Valley because this seems to us to be a region with untapped potential for investors in green tech and associated sectors. It's a pilot that's going to run for 12 months. It's going to focus on intensifying connections between the city and the Northeast to drive deal flow and support sustainable SMEs and green tech in particular. And our ambition really is then to roll the programme out to other regions. Today, we're also launching a new FRSG website, which is going to showcase the green innovation coming out of the Northeast and its success stories. And it's going to show our network of investors just how much potential there is for profitable and sustainable investment in the Northeast. Well, that is our aim, and we're very grateful to our partners for working with us. And I'm delighted today to be joined by our partners and our expert panel, who are shortly going to be discussing some of the exciting opportunities that there are. But first of all, I want to welcome, I'm very pleased to welcome Stephen Welton, Executive Chairman of BGF, to speak to us about the importance of investing in green and in the UK. Stephen, over to you.
Catherine, thank you very much indeed. Good afternoon to everybody. It's a real pleasure to support this initiative, and it goes really to the core of what BGF was set up to do 10 years ago, before levelling up was a phrase, because the City of London and the UK has a fantastic track record in terms of innovation and finance. And in the green agenda, we no doubt are going to be a leader in green bonds. But what we also need to be a leader in is actually devolving capital right across the country to supporting innovation, to helping promote clusters, and to really providing that accelerator from universities through startups into global scale-ups. And there is absolutely no reason why the UK should not be one of the world's leaders in the drive towards net zero, not just as a country, in terms of our objectives, but equally in terms of the companies that we back. And to put that in perspective, in terms of what BGF has done, we have 14 offices now across the UK by design. We want to be close to the companies that we invest in. We want to be an integral part of those communities. And those communities are made up of professional services firms, accountants, lawyers. They're made up of financiers like banks. They're made up of the LEPs, which we're going to hear from universities, and of course from companies. And looking to this initiative in terms of connecting together networks, that is the only way that we will be able to harness innovation and combine it with finance, and to do that nationwide rather than just through London. And if we look at funding generally in the UK, something like 70% plus of all funding for earlier stage venture capital and private equity businesses comes from London and the Southeast. And that's clearly a significant driver of economic growth in the UK, but it's not enough. If you look at what we've done at BGF by having a much more decentralized and locally driven approach, we've been able to make our investments the inverse of that. So over 70% of the getting on towards 3 billion we've invested has been outside of London and the Southeast. And I'm really proud of the fact that the biggest region for investment for BGF is the north of England. And part of that is because we have offices in Manchester, Leeds and Newcastle. And there is no doubt in my mind that the innovation in the north of England is incredibly powerful. It's a very rich seam of talent. What we need to do is to provide more capital and to help ensure that the ecosystem is as healthy as it can possibly be. And this is a debate that we've all had for many years. It does feel to me as if we are at something of an inflection point here, partly driven by the pandemic, and we're reassessing what our priorities are, partly the change in the political agenda to drive levelling up and wealth creation across the country, and then perhaps most significantly, the increasing emphasis on science and research and development, and ensuring that we can tap into the UK's tremendous academic background by supporting locally. And that will all, in our view, be brought to the fore with the road to net zero, the challenges of climate warming, and what we're going to do in terms of green investment and green innovation. And I think the northeast of England, given its strength already in areas like offshore wind, and given the academic base that it has, is the perfect place for this sort of pilot and project to actually not just start, but to actually grow and provide leadership to other parts of the country. And I say that in the context of what we have already invested in the northeast of England already. And that's before we've upped the focus on the green agenda more specifically. So roughly 10% of all of our investments to date are in what we would term clean growth, and that will go into all the areas that we understand, whether that is sort of energy transition, which is a core part of this, whether it's insulating buildings, thinking about the places we live in, thinking about transport and connections. All of these are going to require innovation. And the place we're going to see that most of all is through small growing entrepreneurial companies. So as an investment firm, roughly 10% to date has gone into clean growth. We want to increase that to 20% as quickly as we can. And that requires us to be on the ground supporting local initiatives, which is why we're delighted to be supporting this initiative, because I think it shows that the country is united in trying to turn its great financial resources together with its undoubted innovation and entrepreneurial and academic zeal towards something that is going to make a difference to all of us and to the next generation, which is turning net zero and the road to net zero from a series of high-level aspirations into things that we can turn into reality. And that reality will be backing innovation, which is backing entrepreneurs. And that is one of the reasons I think I'm extremely optimistic. The UK is well placed, and I'm sure we will hear from other speakers, why initiatives like this will quickly begin to bear fruit, because everybody is now looking at not just 2045 or 2050, they're looking at the next 10 years, because those are the 10 years that will really determine whether we are successful in this agenda. So I know, speaking finally for BGF, we are committed to do more across the UK and across the North and the Northeast, very much hoping that others will follow. Thank you, Catherine.
Thank you very much for that, Stephen. And I think you've really highlighted why this is the appropriate area for us to be looking at, and indeed the appropriate time for us to be looking at this pilot. And this is, as you say, an inflection point, and let's make sure that we're absolutely moving on sort of upward trajectory from here. And so thank you very much for joining us. What I'm now going to do is turn over to Esteban Abad, CEO of Svera Advisors and partner at Three Hills Capital Partners, to tell us a little bit about some research that he's undertaken for the City Corporation and what the success factors are behind green cluster growth. Esteban, over to you. Thank you.
Thank you, Catherine, for your kind introduction. It's a pleasure to be here today to discuss how the city can work with the Northeast in support of green and sustainable businesses. To give a bit of background, in Svera, we have been working with the City of London for a number of years across a range of initiatives. But when we were approached on this specific project, I think it's fair to say that this was the one that excited us the most at many levels. I'll give you a little bit of background on why that is the case. The original challenge from the city to us was to undertake a study effectively looking at the sustainability-led innovation and corporate clusters across the UK regions, and analyze the financing landscape supporting these ecosystems and identify drivers of success and failure. So I'd like to spend just a couple of minutes summarizing the nature of the work and some of the key findings, because that will provide a little bit more context to the launch of this particular initiative. So our work was split across two main areas. So on the first side of the equation, we effectively created and analyzed a very detailed company pipeline where we spotted more than 850 companies that had been seeking capital, identified across 6 core sustainability-led sectors. And we mapped this pipeline across all the UK regions, across company maturity stages, sectors, really to get a good view on regional trends and also regional differences, and understand a little bit some of the current sort of clustering dynamics in relation to sustainability and green tech businesses. The second thing that we did was to identify success factors that, in our view, are key drivers of green growth. And our analysis pointed to 4 key success drivers, what we call cluster pillars. These were, number 1, smart government. So this is basically about having a supportive policy landscape. It's about having clear policy signals. The second one is the corporate or company ecosystem, and this is the ability of corporates to feed off each other and generate synergies by clustering. The third one is research and commercialization. So we have spoken about the need for these innovative companies to be able to get off the ground, to be able to transition from an idea to a commercial reality. And this is typically driven by academia, accelerators, incubators, and the like. And then the last part, which is one where clearly the city has an important role to play, is the financing landscape. And this is both the depth, sophistication of financing options, and the ability by regional businesses to actually access these options. And I think, as Stephen has just mentioned as well, this is very much related around the broader financing ecosystem locally. So this is about having intermediaries, brokers, professional services that can support that financing journey of companies. So in our analysis, we identified these key sectors that together create conditions for green growth. So in terms of the findings of our analysis, we concluded a number of things. This is not an exhaustive list, but I think it's probably the most relevant to the launch of this particular initiative. So the first one is, as you would expect, there is a wide range of disparities across the regions. So when you're comparing performance across these 4 pillars, you have very different levels of development. We did quite a deep dive across all the regions on these 4 pillars, and there's a lot of disparity. So there's clearly work done. And one of the key disparities we identified is that ability to access capital, which is London-based. And this is more pronounced in our analysis of the pipeline on companies that are at an earlier stage of maturity, and also companies that are in the growth stage of maturity. So the mix of the pipeline analysis, the key success factors, and the experience of the Svera team in actually pounding the pavements in some of these regions, trying to find investment opportunities, it's kind of shaped that initial set of findings. The other key finding that we had was the very strong link between the scores that we provided against these pillars across all the regions with actually the maturity and the depth of the corporate ecosystems in the particular regions. So we effectively identified that there is kind of a virtuous kind of circle dynamic being created where these four factors feed off each other. I think finally, the last thing that I wanted to mention is that the research also highlights the need to actually score highly across all pillars, and the ability of corporates to be able to engage with the four pillars to have the right conditions for green growth in a particular region. And I think the key identification that we had related to the City of London was the ability to actually have interconnectors in the middle of these four pillars. Our analysis identified a lot of very good progress in the context of the Northeast across a number of these pillars, but it's really important to be able to have collaboration between the different components of the pillars and be able to have interconnectors in the middle that are able to drive basically a better outcome. So the sum of the parts genuinely is much more powerful in the context of cluster creation to drive green growth. I think the analysis that we did identified the City of London, the level of access that I've seen in the city in terms of investors, and the level of dialogue that we have experienced in the city in terms of investors looking for genuine financing opportunities with a very strong sustainability and green tilt. And one of the complaints is their ability to be able to actually eventually find those opportunities is something that, in our view, creates a very important and very interesting role for the City of London to drive forward. I think in the context of the Northeast, once we did this research, we did a couple of workshops, which I'm sure we'll discuss later on, and there are a number of people in the panel today that participated very actively in those workshops. And effectively, the setting up of this pilot is now the next natural step, and I look forward very much to supporting all the partners in this pilot going forward. So many thanks for your attention, and that's back to you, Catherine.
Thank you very much, Esteban. You've stressed the importance of collaboration between those four pillars of academia, finance, policy and business. So it's now a very good moment, I think, to introduce our Northeast partners and two innovative Northeast-based startups, so we can hear firsthand about some of the great potential there is in the area. So I'm pleased, first of all, to introduce Dr. Tim Hammond, co-founder of the Northern Accelerator, and then Alex Buchan, Investment Director at North Star Ventures, Colin Bell, Business and Sector Growth Director at the Northeast LEP. So that's Tim, Alex and Colin from the Northern Accelerator, North Star Ventures and the Northeast LEP respectively, our three partners who we're really pleased to be collaborating with on finance for sustainable growth. And we're also lucky to be joined by two fantastic businesses, the sort of businesses which this initiative is aimed at supporting. We've got Natasha Boulding, CEO of Svera, and James Widmer, CEO of Advanced Electric Machines. And I'm going to start by asking Natasha to say a few words about her business and growth journey to date. Natasha, thank you.
Thank you, Catherine. It's a pleasure to be here and a pleasure to be involved in the programme and the launch today. So I'm Natasha, co-founder and CEO of Svera. We're an award-winning specialty materials company based just south of Durham. And we're a startup focusing on low carbon material alternatives for the construction sector in the race for net zero. So the reasons why we started the business in this sector was because concrete itself is responsible for about 8% of global CO2 emissions, but there wasn't much innovation going on in the sector. So it seemed like a really exciting place to disrupt and innovate in. So Svera has three co-founders, and we all are scientists, so based all around the country during our degrees, and then all met in Durham for PhDs. And I think it's quite common and perhaps a problem that everyone moves to Durham, students move to Durham to do PhDs or degrees and then move everywhere else in the country. So we met and we saw that Durham was a really good place to start a business. So after our PhDs in 2019, we spun Svera out of Durham University. and decided to be based in the Northeast. So we have strong links with Durham University and the local business community. And our development since we incorporated has been down to many, many things. But if I could pick out a few financial things that have supported us, is 2 Innovate UK grants. We've had private funding, and I just want to highlight the Northern Accelerator as well. That is a program that gave us an initial amount of funding to prove a proof of concept that perhaps would be really difficult to get elsewhere. We were also part of Durham City Incubator, which is a brand new incubator started a few years ago in Durham that provided us the business experience that we perhaps didn't have as scientists going into the business world. So currently we are going through a pre-Series A round, so open to private investment, venture investment, and just really excited to be part of the program that could potentially help companies like ours and highlight and make it more visible to get funding from elsewhere. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Natasha. That sounds a pretty amazing journey to date. And you said you just finished your PhDs in 2019. So, I mean, that sounds, congratulations on that journey. I'm going to turn to Tim next, and I'm going to ask you, Tim, for your views on Svera's success story.
Okay, thank you, Catherine, and very, very pleased to be able to talk to us all here today. Yes, of course, extremely proud and pleased to see Natasha today talking about her experiences here. I do remember the very early conversations a couple of years ago when this was very much a germ of an idea. So yes, we're very pleased to see one of our initially student postgraduate student-based spin-outs coming out and actually raising money and going forward. I guess in the broader sense, Svera is an example of a business, and you've already referenced it, Natasha, that's engaged with the Northern Accelerator. And I have a dual role, I suppose. I both lead on commercialization at Durham University, but I also lead on a broader project, which is a pan-Northeast University project, which is called the Northern Accelerator, which is very much about establishing a strong support ecosystem around our spin-outs. Really, the 5 universities in the region. That's ourselves in Durham, Newcastle, Northumbria, Sunderland, and now Teesside, working very, very hard to join up our activity to support where we can our university spin-outs as we take them out of our university systems. And what we've actually done here is really looked at really where the gaps lay. So we've got our individual technology transfer offices within our individual universities, but where do the gaps lie, and how can we actually support our businesses to really make them investment ready and to take them forward? So we've put in place a series of interventions, and we've had very strong support through Research England as a sponsor. They provided us with quite a large grant of 5 million in the first instance to really start to get this activity up and running, and that's really looked at where our academic needs are in terms of support to innovations. We've been running some very strong support programs around training. We've also engaged in an executives into business program where we've been embedding executives into our spin-outs at an early stage pre-incorporation. And we've embedded, I think, 26 executives into our businesses so far, where we've put an executive in with a mixture of sweat equity and cash reward to help us get our businesses on a strong commercial footing as they leave the university. We've operated a proof of concept program. We've invested 2 million in our businesses over the last 3 years. That's supported 50 projects. We've already seen, I think, 13 spin-outs come out of that program, with I think 7 further licensing deals, with more things to come out of that program as time goes by. So that's worked very, very well. And then alongside that, we've been putting in place a whole range of other support mechanisms. We've launched a seed fund in the Northeast, working with our partner North Star Ventures, and I know Alex Buchan is going to be talking in a few minutes about the financial perspectives from within the region. But that's allowed us to support nine spin-out opportunities. We've just completed the 9th investment in the last week or so, and that's leveraged a significant additional investment alongside that. and we're looking forward now to be working with our colleagues in North Star to raise a much larger venture funds, which we're calling Venture North. So I think there's a lot of things happening in terms of building innovation and taking our innovation out of our universities. And really, as a consequence, we're really keen to be part of this broader initiatives that we're talking about today, to have that broader visibility. And I think the opportunity is really to engage with new potential stakeholders and partners as we look to take our businesses forward in this area of sustainable development. So thank you very much for that.
Thank you very much, Tim. I think both Natasha and her co-founders are clearly great investments for Durham University, but it's very good to hear also how the Northern Accelerator has been able to support them. So I'm going to turn now to James and ask him to say a few words about AEM, Advanced Electric Machines. James.
Catherine, thank you very much indeed. Absolutely fantastic to be here. Most people think that electric vehicles are a green, sustainable technology, but I think the issue is that sadly that's not entirely true. Today, vehicles are using materials and designs that are often very far from sustainable, unfortunately. I'm, as Catherine says, James Whitmer, CEO and co-founder of a fantastic team of Advanced Electric Machines. And the mission we've set ourselves is to design the world's most sustainable electric powertrain to go into those electric vehicles. We do that, for example, by removing things like rare earth materials from electric motors, and also by making electric motors and powertrains fully recyclable at the end of their life. However, what we do, this isn't like eco washing powder. So this isn't something where a customer can feel good about themselves by taking the greener option, but somehow is trading off in terms of performance. Instead, we've got technology which allows customers to go faster and further, whilst also being critically cheaper and much more, as I said, sustainable. We're a Newcastle University spin-out based in Washington, which is about 5 minutes down the road from Nissan and Sunderland. We spun out in 2017 and have built a business based on investments from trade investors, from EIS type investors, and also from our very close partner now, North Star, Alex Buchan, who will be talking a little bit later on. But actually, most of our funding has come through the UK's grant infrastructure. So while we might have raised a few £1 million in equity so far, actually, we've raised far more than that in terms of the grant funding that we've been able to secure, and that's what's really allowed us to build the business. And we really have built the business. So we now have customers all around the world, and we are in the process of scaling up production so that we'll be building thousands of electric motors and transmissions here in the Northeast next year. We're selling products into the fast-growing electric commercial vehicle market. We are partnered very closely with Bentley Motors, looking at electric powertrain for electric cars in the future. And we even have one of the world's 2 largest aerospace OEMs as a customer for an aerospace product that we developed. The next steps for us are really looking to grow the business further and faster. So we are working with a major US investment bank at the moment, looking towards a major US-based raise. I'm sorry to say we're looking in the US rather than the UK for this funding. And the reason we're doing that is because we think the level of finance we can raise there will allow us to grow the business very, very fast, expanding it globally. Although I have to go and say we very much intend to maintain our Northeast roots. And perhaps to finish on the Northeast and why we're here. Partly it's because where we started, but this really is a fantastic place to be running a business like we are, which is based out of engineering and manufacturing. There are fantastic skills up here. There's an incredibly low cost base. The infrastructure in the region is also absolutely fantastic for what we're trying to do. Truly world class, and I think that's pretty much evidenced by the fact that this region has been attracting investments both locally over the past few years and also from across the world with things like Nissan's recent announcement. That was all I was going to say. Thank you very much indeed, Catherine.
Thank you very much, James. Another very impressive story for a young company, and we need to show you where you can raise finance in the UK as well as the US, I think. I know that North Star Ventures has been instrumental in getting you this far, so I'm going to ask Alex for your views, Alex, on AEM's journey.
Right, I can show myself now.
Excellent, thank you.
Good. Okay, well, good afternoon, everybody. I mean, I think, firstly, I think James has covered a couple of things I wanted to say, but I think you have to look at the Northeast at the moment as one of the most important electrification clusters in Europe. Not only has there been big investment from Nissan, but also we've had British Volt setting up a battery gigaplant in the Northeast, and recent investments in from Turntide as well. So there's an awful lot going on in the region, and the infrastructure is tremendous. It's developing, and also there's major projects in place to put a fully integrated UK supply chain in for the electric vehicle market. So there's an awful lot for investors to go at up here. Underpinning that is the regional universities. They provide world-class research base both into all the technologies which underpin this, whether it's batteries, whether it's sustainable power supplies, or whether it's motors themselves. And this is really the sort of the environment which spawned AEM's spin out a few years ago. And it is, AEM is a prime example of the sort of potential of the region for investment. Over the time that we've known them since they spun out, I mean, their growth has been fantastic. I mean, they spun out in 2016, and they've made a tremendous progress since then. And during that time, we supported that journey with investments of around about £1 million from our funds. North Star itself is a VC which is based in Newcastle. We've been around since 2004, helping to build an ecosystem, an entrepreneurial ecosystem in a region which was heavily dependent on traditional industries such as shipbuilding and coal mining when we went back in the early part of the century. And what we've seen is a huge shift to much more new technology, modern businesses, modern infrastructures. And the numbers of businesses which are backed by venture finance and PE finance has rocketed over that time. And it's interesting to look when some analysis that we're doing around fundraising at the moment is the numbers of venture-backed businesses which are now started within that time frame and now valued at north of 100 million. This is becoming really significant. I'm not saying that we're as far ahead as London or even Scotland, but the Northeast is rapidly catching up, and as such it repays close attention by the investment community. I mean, our job is to provide early stage venture capital and impact investments to entrepreneurs who basically want to facilitate fundamental change. We're not looking at local businesses, we're looking at businesses trying to work on a global scale. And that support is more than financial backing. It's our portfolio's got to overcome all the challenges of nascent businesses, whether it's finding premises, most importantly, finding people. The quality of the people in the region is fantastic, as James said. Building their brands and building the networks necessary to actually start raising the rounds of finance to make them into meaningful businesses. And I think that's for the moment. I think that about covers it.
Thank you very much, Alex. That's great. I'm now going to turn to Colin and ask how the Northeast Local Enterprise Partnership is supporting innovative entrepreneurs in the Northeast. Colin.
Thank you very much, Catherine. I'll just start by saying that it's just great to hear from Natasha and James, because it's companies like yours who are the kind of future of the region, and really we want to see a lot more of kind of fast-growing, innovative companies like yours. So absolutely fantastic to hear your stories and the success that you're having. The reason why we want to see more companies like you is that, quite frankly, you are the people who are generating jobs and economic growth. We're developing an ecosystem that's trying to create more scale-ups within the region. The reason why we want to do that is that scale-up businesses represent around about 1% of the business population, so a small proportion of the business population, but they actually generate 1/3 of all new economic growth and 1/3 of new jobs. So a small group of companies, but incredibly important to the future. So I suppose my job is trying to create an ecosystem where more scale-ups can start and really thrive within the region. One of the things that scale-ups consistently tell us is that there's barriers that get in the way and prevent them from scaling. And those barriers tend to be in broadly two areas. One is accessing talent, and the other one is accessing finance. So again, just to reference, it's fantastic that we're launching this initiative today, because anything we can do to bring more or make it easier for companies like Natasha and James to access finance is going to help create that ecosystem and to help nurture more scale-ups within the region. So absolutely fantastic all round. In terms of that ecosystem that we're cultivating, there's several things that we're doing. Number one is that we're trying to create an environment where more high potential startups can create. So we've actually got a program, an accelerator program that's targeted at them, spotting companies very early on in their early stages that have high growth potential and getting behind them through an intensive acceleration process. We've then got a program called Scale Up Northeast, which is actually recognised as an exemplar by the National Scale Up Institute. Been around for about three years now, and it's having a huge impact on the environment. Quite simply, what that program does, it matches companies with scale-up potential with scale-up partners who have been there and done that. They've actually scaled a business and exited a business, raised finance, and all those sort of things. And as you can imagine, actually a big part of what they do with those companies is actually support them to raise finance. So a lot of work in terms of supporting them to develop investable propositions, develop scalable business models, but then actually attract the investors. Directly linked to the supply of finance in the region, we've got the Northeast Fund, which is a £120 million fund that's available to companies within the region, and Alex and North Star are one of the fund managers on that fund. So absolutely fantastic. And one of the other things we do, we've touched on it, that there's some incredible opportunities within the Northeast. We've already touched on the electric vehicle supply chain and the recent announcement from Nissan and Britvolt. We've got the world's largest offshore wind farm in development off the coast of the Northeast, and we're doing really innovative things around using our mine networks to actually generate heat networks and renewable energy from those sources. So absolutely loads going on. So through programs like Supply Chain Northeast, we're helping more companies access opportunities within those supply chains. And then more specifically within the energy sector, we've got an energy program that's cultivating the cluster that Esteban mentioned earlier, and so important to the development of the opportunity. And within that, we've got a program called the Energy Catalyst that's really focused on bringing forward innovations within the energy space. So lots going on, and to be honest, I could go on all day around all the things that are happening, but you know, real opportunities within this space. Great that more investments coming into the region, and I think that as a region we can look forward with real confidence, because it's filled with opportunity.
Great, thank you very much. Thank you very much, Colin. And it's great to hear about all the great work you're all doing, sorry, to support sustainable innovation. And it's very exciting, in fact, what you're describing to us. So, and this is where I'm also going to try to introduce more excitement even into this session by giving everybody on my panel just a minute for a follow-up question, because we're running a bit tight on time. I'm going to start with Tim. I'm going to ask Tim to elaborate on some of the areas of green research and innovation, where the Northeast and Tees Valley is really leading the way. Tim.
Okay, thanks, Catherine. We've heard a couple of mentions already. You know, new battery plants just being announced this week in Sunderland, but I think also, you know, the major investments that are being planned are again around electric vehicles. The British Volt having selected Blythe for their 2.6 billion gigafactory development. That's providing great opportunity to engage from an innovation perspective in terms of the products and the support that they need as a business. And certainly the regional universities are working very collaboratively to and support that major investment in the Northeast. I think we have very strong energy credentials, certainly in terms of our research locally. I'll highlight Durham's Energy Institute, very much a multidisciplinary activity within my home institution, very much focused on a range of activities, but strengths in areas of energy storage, networks, geothermal, and hydrogen. As hydrogen a key technology, which is obviously very strongly supporting the major investments that we're seeing in Tees Valley, and the work that's being done there. I think my colleagues in Newcastle University have a very strong Centre for Energy and a National Centre for Energy Integration, which again is very broadly based in terms of clean tech and supporting net zero, and very hugely engaged, I think, both in terms of new technologies coming out of our institutions, but also supporting partners, whether they're small, medium, or larger scale partners in terms of what we're taking forward. So I think, from that perspective, we're really keen to ensure that our credentials are understood and that we're able to engage and work more broadly, obviously, with the communities that we're starting to address as we reach south into the London finance community as well.
Great, thank you very much, Tim. And Colin, can I turn to you and ask you to speak a little more broadly on the fundamental strengths of the region in terms of research, talent, legacy, industrial strengths, etc., and also perhaps on its untapped potential? Can you fit all that in 60 seconds for me?
I can indeed, and just to kind of summarise that, Catherine, I think that we're obviously at a time of huge change, but the North East, when we consider the skills, the research base, the companies, the supply chains, the talent that we've got in the region, they're all primed to take advantage and to really capitalise on the opportunities that we're seeing from these big changes, around the shift to electric vehicles and renewable energy. We really are in an absolutely fantastic place as a region to capitalise on that. So everything's just kind of coming together at the right time, I think. And we've got to grasp it. That's the thing. We've got to go for it and take that. Take it by the scruff of the neck, as it were. Yeah.
I think that's the key message we all need to take away today, along with the inflection point that Stephen was mentioning. So, Alex, I wonder if you could quickly touch on how North Star Ventures has benefited from the Northeast ecosystem, and what you would like to see from this 12-month Finance for Sustainable Growth programme. Another 60 seconds, thanks.
Right. I think Colin has touched on research base, he's touched on talent pool, he's touched on a lot of the infrastructures. I think the thing I would really like to highlight, and the thing which I think has really benefited us, the Northeast is actually it's a very coherent region, stretching down from Berwick to Teesside. It's an area with a lot of institutions, very world-class institutions, into universities, research institutes like Centre for Process Innovation, the offshore renewables. It's got 2 hospitals in the global top 50, and it is very collaborative. So what we've found as a venture firm is that this is a tremendous place to get things done. You can build projects, you can work with people across multidiscipline, from different public and private sector, from commercial, academic, and get projects going to prove them out so that they can then be scaled. Then they can be scaled both nationally and internationally. And this is really the fundamental of what we're really trying to do at the moment as an organisation, because we're obviously running the Northeast Fund, which we're involved in, but we've been working with the universities, the Northern Accelerator on the Seed Fund. But the main ambition is to actually to raise a fund which can actually leverage this research base and leverage the unique qualities of the region to actually start to really start building businesses which can create social change at scale. And so all this social change is sustainable, and whether it's new sorts of bioprocessing, whether it's addressing health inequality, whether it's new mechanisms of power generation. There's so many things post the pandemic that we need to address, and there is a huge opportunity at the moment to actually change. To put it bluntly, to change the world. We can do things we can do things differently, and we want to. As I think everyone's feeling, we need to grasp the nettle. This is the time to do it.
Great, thank you very much, Alex, and thank you everybody. I mean, we're really pleased to be partnering with you on this programme. I'm going to give both Natasha and James 60 seconds each, also just to ask you how you're going to be approaching the next stage of your growth story, and why is the Northeast ecosystem so well placed to support. So, Natasha, 60 seconds from you first of all.
Thanks, Catherine. So, for us, the first future thing that we're heading towards is commercialization. So we have a product that is very close to commercialization. So we're entering into an exciting period where that will involve team growth, finance, whether that's grant or equity investment, collaboration. So Alex said lots of multidisciplinary collaboration across the region. And for us, of course, innovation. So innovation will always be the lifeblood of Svera. So we've got lots of new products in the pipeline. And that's helped by the university links, the Northeast LET programs that Colin's talked about. So that's us. That's the next few months.
That's great. Thank you very much. We look forward to seeing what the future holds for you and Svera, Natasha, and best wishes with that. And James, 60 seconds for you. Same question.
Thanks, Catherine. I won't say anything more, I think, about the Northeast, because I think I've already talked about that. But in terms of the future, what I would really like to do is to figure out how to use the UK financial infrastructure to, beyond this US raise we're doing, actually to drive the growth of the business. I have the feeling that we in the UK are missing out a little bit on some of the enormous growth stories. My plan is that advanced electric machines will be one of those. So I'm hoping that this initiative helps businesses in the Northeast like mine, but also other initiatives around the country to really see the UK and London drive significant growth in new tech businesses who can change the world.
Thank you very much, James, and that's absolutely an aspiration which we share. So good luck to you and AEM as well. And thank you to all our panelists. That's been great. And I think it's really helped underline how all the fundamental ingredients of success are present in the Northeast. Across those 4 pillars that Esteban spoke to us about, and we need to add that finance piece in. This programme is all about catalysing those elements through better connectivity with the City of London and its expertise and capital, and indeed engaging with the wider Northeast ecosystem through our partners. So I'm now going to hand over to Jordan Darg from the Innovation Super Network to say a few words about their Access to Finance programme. Thank you, Jordan, over to you.
Lovely. Thank you very much, Catherine, and thank you for having me here for the launch of this amazing programme. Just giving a little bit of information in terms of what we're doing at the Innovation Super Network. We have launched our Access to Finance programme for the year, and basically this is to really support very early stage innovative businesses looking to start up in the Northeast, but looking to really significantly raise finance. It's for high growth businesses, cutting across a multitude of sectors, but really focusing on digital technology, advanced manufacturing, engineering, and basically giving them the foundation in terms of how they can build and develop their business to be able to access finance, whether that's from regional funds, venture capitalists, family offices, and angel investors. The programme gives them a real understanding of the foundation of the landscape, so what funding and finance is available for organisations, including grants as well. It then also enables them businesses to also touch on expertise in terms of that, building that foundation out and really looking at the legalities that's needed if you're looking to raise finance, and then also maybe understanding what, how to value IP within the business. So it's really giving the businesses the tools to be able to go out and raise finance successfully. The programme itself is the programme that we've actually partnered up with the British Business Bank this year. The British Business Bank's been, is implemental, is very, very important in terms of the finance and the education that comes together to be able to give businesses that access to finance in the North. And really what we tend to do when we get to the end of that educational based programme, we then give them the tools to be able to go out and raise finance, which is basically being able to leverage and pull together their investment documentation to then be able to access investors. In addition to the Access to Finance programme, the Innovation Super Network lead on the Newcastle Angel Hub. And the Newcastle Angel Hub is basically a network of investors with a particular focus on angel investors. We feel that angel investors are so important to supporting the early stage innovation-led entrepreneur ecosystem, and we are working really hard to build out angel investors, not just from across the region, but again building that connectivity with London-based angel investors, and basically promoting and giving them a pipeline of activity to be able to support the organisations who are based in the Northeast. So effectively trying to build a network for angel investors right across the UK who can support companies who are existing in the Northeast, basically. That programme that we've been delivering ultimately has been happening since 2019. And over the course of 2020, we've actually supported over 20 companies to raise finance. And that finance came not only from investors in the Northeast, but right across the UK. And what we try to do as well is bring together and connect all of the different types of investors and build out co-investment capabilities for the ecosystem as well. We were asked to obviously highlight a couple of case studies as well, just to finish off my section for today, looking at what types of businesses we've been able to support. And a couple of businesses, particularly based in the Northeast, was a company called Diamond, who's based in Durham, an advanced manufacturing company, a company that came to us about 1.5 years ago. Had some early stage funding invested into the business by Mercia. Came to us because they were looking to receive some grant funding, which was a regional angel investment accelerator grant, which was to deploy into innovative businesses to be matched funders with angels. And we were able to successfully help that company raise investment, and we've actually now completed 3 rounds of investment with that business, and that business is now well on its way to commercialization. And it just really shows the power of co-investment and how important it is for us to all build connectivity between us as investment organisations to help catalyse and to help generate further funding for early stage businesses. On the opposite end of the scale as well, we've really helped an energy-based company called Powerroll, a solar panel business in Sunderland, successfully raised £2.8 million last year. And again, that was by bringing angel investors into an opportunity that was basically cornerstoned by larger funding organisations and venture capitalists as well. We really see ourselves as being integral to the finance landscape in terms of giving the access to finance knowledge to the businesses, but basically helping them prepare and working collaboratively with all of the funds, the regional based funds and the venture capitalists and the angels to try and help bring the deals together. Thank you very much, Catherine.
Thank you very much, Jordan, and we look forward to working with you over the next 12 months. So before we wrap up, I'm delighted indeed to hand over to my colleague from the City Corporation, Inez, who's our Sustainable Finance Policy Advisor, for a big reveal, I think. Inez, is that right?
Yeah, thank you very much, Catherine. I'm very excited to be able to share with you the FRSG website today. So this website is an essential part of the mission that we've given ourselves with this project of amplifying the best of the Northeast green innovation to a wider base of investors. And we really want to build this website out to be a central repository of information for investors interested in investing in green or investing in UK regions. And the website also hosts the FRSG research report, so you can download it from there as well. This is where the initial research and green cluster growth hypothesis that Esteban touched on earlier really comes to life, and it's quite a nice way to wrap up the session today after the panel. As you can see, we've chosen our partners for the pilot because they map perfectly on the elements of success behind green cluster growth. So North Star for finance, Northern Accelerator for research, and then the Northeast LEP sitting across government and companies. The resource hub is the main part of the website, and as I said, we're looking to build this out as a easily accessible repository of information, a sort of one-stop shop really for case studies, news and events, and insights on the innovative, pioneering innovation and technology being developed in the Northeast. So to illustrate my point here with a great example. Here we're showcasing Svera, so Natasha's company, of course, being really clear about its mission, its offer, its journey to date, and then its ambitions for the future. So someone reading this who is interested in Svera can then go directly to its website or reach out to us directly, which brings me nicely to my last point. We want to hear from you. We are always looking to collaborate. So if you want to discuss finance for sustainable growth, if you're an investor looking for an opportunity or more information, or if you are an organization with a similar program of work, then please do get in touch using the FRSG at cityoflondon.gov.uk email address. Or you can also sign up to our newsletter if you want to be kept up to date on FRSG, on opportunities and news and events arising throughout the year. And I think that's it from me. Thank you, Catherine. Back to you.
Great, thank you very much, Ines, and thank you very much again to everybody for joining us for this afternoon's event, and of course to our speakers and panelists for a very interesting and I think insightful discussion. I'm really excited to see where this programme takes us and what we can do working together to mobilise private investment. And as we've heard again and again today, collaboration is going to be key to achieving what we're setting out to do. And I really hope that through this pilot, we'll be able to build a bridge between city finance and regional innovation and support green innovation and growth across the whole of the UK. And together accelerate the net zero transition. And to James's point, make sure that exciting businesses can raise the finance that they need through the UK, through London and the rest of the UK, and don't need to turn to the US. So we look forward very much to working closely with our partners and stakeholders on this. And on that note, I'm just going to reiterate it as this call to action. We do want to hear from you, whether you're an investor, enthused about the idea of supporting innovation in the UK, whether you have a complementary programme of work underway and would like to collaborate, or simply whether you would just like to discuss this work further with us or feedback to us, please do reach out to us on FRSG at cityoflondon.gov.uk. That's FRSG at cityoflondon.gov.uk, or visit that new website, FRSG.co.uk. I think we will be circulating details of that after this call. So thank you once again, all of you, for joining us, and enjoy the rest of your day. Thank you.